Hey friends, welcome back to The Inner Experience with Sam Asser. I'm excited to bring you episode 018 today, and I'm stoked with all of the feedback that's come through so far on the debunking the masculine and feminine that I had last week with Stefanos. And if you haven't checked that out, definitely go and do so, because then you'll have so much more of an understanding of what the masculine and feminine is all about. But don't worry, because today we'll actually give you some really good advice, tips, and knowledge around what this energy is all about as well. Before I go into what that is, this is another shout out to my women out there who are on the fence, maybe interested in exploring the feminine more. I'm taking applications right now for the Feminine Flow course, which is a 6-week online journey for 5 women out there. If you're feeling exhausted, if you're a people pleaser, if you've lost your sex drive and sensuality, if you have no idea who you are, if you're craving love and support, someone to hold you and be like, I've got you, and it's totally okay. And to increase your self-confidence, ready to be seen, heard, take back your power, all of that stuff, like, that's legit. And I'm here to really help you cultivate this more and create a safe space for you to explore this and go deeper into this work. So if you're interested, I'm literally taking interest in applications right now. So hit me up. Feel free to Instagram me or jump onto www.samasser.com/thefeminineflow, and you can find your application on there. The link's also in the show notes if that's easier. But I wanted to let you know because it's coming to the end of August and I'm going to be finalizing that group really soon. So if you are keen, hit me up. Now, the important stuff is this week's episode. Holy crap. I literally just finished rewatching it and I'm like kind of feeling very raw and emotional and quite open from this episode. And so like sharing it is actually making me shake a little bit. It's a pretty vulnerable episode for me, and I'm so grateful to have Jake Woodard on the show, who is doing incredible work in this field online. He's just like going after it and changing lives. And if you don't know him, he's an author, a speaker, a spiritual healer. He's passionate about helping others live a more spiritually connected and heart-centered life. His inspiring story of overcoming his own struggle and challenges led him to finding his soul's calling. He believes that the darkness he experienced helped him find his light within, and he literally just beams light like everywhere. He's an incredible human being, and this conversation was pretty special to me because we were talking about healing the wounds of the masculine and feminine energy. So we talk about what a wound is and why it's important to heal it. We talk about allowing the feminine heart to be seen and felt. And this on my behalf is actually pretty raw because I've recently been in a lot of personal embodiment practice with some practitioners over in the US, which you're going to be hearing from on the podcast in the next few episodes to come. But this work is pretty like, it's like in my horizon at the moment. It's like kind of like if you kind of wear your heart on your sleeve a little bit, that's what's happening for me with this work. And Jake picks up on this energy throughout the episode, and we have a moment where he invites me to explore kind of some shields that went up. And so I really explore what it means to allow the feminine heart to be seen and felt in this episode, so you can get a taster of that. You might experience, you'll know exactly when I'm talking about this, because I go from quite enthusiastic and showy and performance and stagey for the first half of this episode, and then it completely drops and you feel this change that happens within me, and I drop into my body and my heart, and I then do the episode from that place, and you can see the shift. And so this is my body of work right now, is exploring life from my heart space, from the feminine heart, instead of sometimes what happens is I go into this protective shell, and it's vulnerable to let that go completely, and to trust and to surrender and to really let the heart lead completely. So this is what it's going to be exploring. And we're also going to be looking at the feelings in a busy world, why we need to slow down and actually feel. And he calls the men out in this one. And so it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. This episode is like is amazing for really allowing you to get a sense of what the masculine and feminine energy is all about, and how we have both of them within us, and how it can really change your life when you can understand what wounds are taking place within you from childhood or from trauma or from different experiences that have happened for you, and what you do when you can allow that to be seen and work through it and live from your heart instead of from the wound. So, with all of that said, I'm going to continue to shake as I share this episode live. And I'm deeply grateful for the work that Jake does and his incredible being. And I really hope that you enjoy this episode. So if you do, please let me know. Feel free to share it on Instagram and tag @Samasa. And I would love to know your thoughts. Welcome, Jake Woodard. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here, and thank you for the light that you shine in the world.
I'm honored to have you on, and likewise, my friend. And I'm excited to dive in today on, looking at this thing that we call wounds, looking at this healing that kind of needs to take place around the energies of the masculine and feminine. And I've been inspired by the work that you've done, like on yourself, with what you share in the world, but also like in person with people and sharing this. So I know we have a lot to chat to about this today, but I really wanted to start with your journey, like for people that don't know you and how you got to where you are right now.
In which life?
Ooh, your favorite one.
Well, let's talk about the current life.
Okay, cool.
How I manifested back in this form. Well, yeah. So, I grew up in a small little farm town called Greenwich, and that's in upstate New York. And I grew up, in the backwoods, running through woods, barefoot, just playing like an all-American boy. Like that's just how I was growing up. And I had so much energy as a little boy as I do now, but I'm learning how to channel it and continue to learn how to channel it. And my favorite passion now in life is helping people. But when I was a young age, probably around 5, 6 years old, I had such an abundance of energy, so much that like I didn't know what to do with it. So I often just found myself breaking things. And my mother would constantly threaten to send me off to the military school, the misbehaved school for boys. And I'm like, no, I'll be good, I promise. And like just cry my way out of it, whatever. But I found myself in an environment at a very young age that was very toxic. And I watched my parents every single night scream and yell and fight. My dad was just violent. He was rageful. He was aggressive. He was abusive. He tried killing me multiple times. And I started coping with my emotions through food, so I started getting addicted to sugar, and got so bad at one point that my mother had to hide all the snacks in the house because I had no self-control. I would just see sugar and be like, ooh, sugar, and just like eat it, right? So I was this little fat kid growing up. And, the bullies would call me 5x5 and fatty and everything else you could think of. And I was really hurt by that at a physical level. And, that was kind of like the introduction to my pain, because like the layer below that, my dad was super, like I was saying, abusive and aggressive and toxic. Like he tried killing me multiple times. And I just grew up with so much lack of trust with the male energy and his masculine energy. I didn't trust it. Like I didn't trust it. I didn't know what it was. And I was really afraid of it, what I was seeing, what I was being exposed to. And then when I was 13 years old, my older sister, Jocelyn, who was my best friend at the time, like she was smart, she was funny, she was witty. Like everyone wanted to be just like Jocelyn. Like she was popular. And I was 13 and she was about 17 at the time. She was 4 years older than me. And it was the middle of summer and I was breaking in the bathroom because I was going to pour ice cold water on her when she was in the shower. I was being that annoying little brother, And if anybody has siblings and you've ever done that, it's a funny trick. And so I'm trying to get in the bathroom. I'm fidgeting with the door. And finally I couldn't get in. So I just kicked the door open and I busted the door open and Jocelyn was laying on the floor with a needle in her arm. And it like immediately shot like this chill through my body of just like, holy shit, like what has happened here? And I started screaming for my mom, and like she came in, we were able to get to the hospital and revitalized. But at that point, I saw someone going down a very dark path and I didn't understand it. And I really was questioning a lot of things in my life. And about a year later, Jocelyn had continued this journey of heroin and crack cocaine and all kinds of drug abuse. I was arguing with Jocelyn in the kitchen, and she pulled out a knife and she threatened to kill me with it. So I ran in my bedroom and I locked the door and I laid on the ground and I started to cry. And it was that deep cry, like that cry where your throat is closing down and your chest is closing. My world was just going black. And I looked up, and in that moment, I had this 20 gauge shotgun that my parents had bought me for a Christmas gift. And it was in the corner of my bedroom. And I kept that shotgun there to give me protection for against, drug dealers showing up at the house. Cause I was just a scared little boy. Like these people would show up that would come up from the hood and just like be looking to collect my sister, collect money, whatever she owed them. And this is how I lived for many years. But I thought in that moment, what it would be like just to take my life right now. What it would be like just to end it all. And in that moment, all of a sudden, I felt like this like vibrant light, like pulsating through my body. And I could see like this like crazy light show. It was like this like if you ever been to like an EDM concert or something, it was like all those like lights, it was just brrr, like everywhere. And then I heard this voice, and this voice said that you have purpose here and you're not permitted to leave yet. So I was like, who the hell is talking right now? I thought I was going crazy at this point. Like I was like really like at the point, I'm like, I don't know what's happening. Seeing all these crazy like lights and feelings, this vibration of energy. Like I didn't know what it was. I didn't know how to make sense of it. So I believe that was like my first encounter with the divine or God or whatever you want to label it as like it was flowing through me. And I didn't get it yet, but the seed was planted. So I fast forward about 8 years of pain and suffering and going through alcoholism and all kinds of crazy things. I got to this realization in my life that I wanted to stop being a victim and start taking responsibility for my life. And that's when everything shifted.
Wow. I wasn't expecting that story to come out, to be honest. Like, wow, that's amazing. And it's amazing that you had, from where you were growing up and from what you were witnessing and seeing, you still chose, like, you got to choose a different story and you got to choose a different path, and it's amazing. And I'm so glad you did, because you're doing this work now, right? So where did the energies of masculine and feminine come into this for you?
Well, I didn't even know what that was until like probably 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, not many people do, right?
Right. Well, that's the thing, is like a lot of people I think still are at the point where they think masculine and feminine thinks male and female.
Yeah.
But, that's not necessarily the truth, because we all carry a masculine and feminine energy, the yin and the yang, right? So you first have to understand what masculine and feminine energy is before you can even begin to like understand how it's working in your life, right? So like I said, like before we go into that, I think it's to be understood what masculine and feminine, and maybe your listeners know what it is, maybe they don't. So if you've never heard of masculine and feminine, or you just have no idea what it is, then you have to understand that first of all, we all carry masculine and feminine energy. All right. So the masculine energy, most males have more of a masculine energy. Most females have more of a feminine energy. Masculine is more structure, accomplishment, achievement. It's all about personal freedom. It's all about bringing things to an end. It is the decision. It is the leader. These are very masculine traits, right? And that's why in the society we live in, it is very built around masculine energy, right? It's all around achieving success, and that's why sports are so huge. Why? Because they're bringing things to an end. It's the ending of something, because that's the masculine energy. It thrives on all about bringing it to an end and building success, right? Whereas the feminine is more compassion. It is fueled by love. It is movement. It is expression, right? It is emotion. So I'll give the example of like the feminine energy would be like a flame flickering in the wind. It's always changing direction. Where the masculine energy is like a pillar. It just is. It just is present consciousness, right? So the feminine energy in our society has been repressed within all of us, within women and men. And because if you want to connect to your heart, you have to go into the feminine energy, because the feminine energy is fueled by love, right?
Yeah.
That has been repressed. We have been taught, especially as men, we have been taught emotions make you weak. Showing emotion, expressing yourself makes you weak. But when you go through a painful experience, when you go through a trauma, when you go through a breakup, when you go through abuse or abandonment or neglect, and I went through pretty much every single one of those multiple times, energetically, that gets stored within your system. Okay, for example, think about it like this. Have you ever smelled something before and like 10 years later smelled that same smell? Like, oh my God, that reminds me of my grandma's cooking. And you're like flipping out about it, right?
Yeah.
So what happened was that memory got stored in your system or your subconscious mind, whatever you want to call it. It's stored somewhere. Doesn't matter where, it's stored. Okay. So when you go through a painful experience, especially with pain, that memory gets locked in your cells, in your system. Okay. It normally lays dormant for a very long time. And this is how tricky and sneaky this is. It normally lays dormant for a very long time, but often it will manifest as physical pain because it's normally being woken up, triggered by something, maybe someone in your life, maybe it's a relationship, a coworker, maybe something in your life is triggering this dormant pain, but now it's coming to life and it wants to come out physically.
Yes. Okay. This is, I 100% agree. I 100% agree with this. And I can relate so much because I've been in this, like my job was like in sales, right? Very masculine, very like every month was like, almost every day was like the end, like where am I going to hit my goal, right? So I was in this very masculine dominated workplace. And then I moved into my own business, which was again, like you have to, go and like achieve and do these things. And so my feminine essence that I am at my core was like very suppressed, but it was showing up in different, like my body was showing me in different ways. Like a lot of like my female cycle, like that was like horrific. A lot of my relationship with my mom, like we have a beautiful relationship, but I was often triggered by all of these things. So like it was showing up in different ways of like being like, pay attention to me. And I didn't realize. So I definitely agree with that. You talk a lot about like wounds, right? Like the wounded masculine or the wounded feminine. What is a wound for people? Are like kind of this language is kind of new for people. And would you say that is related to what you just explained?
Right. So an emotional wound is like, it's like with a physical wound, you can see it. But the thing with emotion is it's energy, right? It gets trapped in your system. So if you have, say, an abandonment wound, or you have a resentment wound or a neglect wound, one of the first places it's going to show up, because it's going to show up a lot of places, believe me, because the universe is going to keep sending it to you to heal it. One of the first places it shows up is in your body. Okay. So for example, if you're having back pain, you may be holding on to resentment or anger, right? If you're having shoulder pain, you could be burdening the shoulder pain of life. You're not able to shoulder the pain, essentially. So there's like different things. Like if you're having throat issues, are you not speaking your truth? Like if you're having stomach issues, are you not able to process your emotions and fears, right? So if you're having issues, say within your solar plexus at the third chakra, right? There's different symptoms that will show up in your body. Okay. And they show up everywhere. And then often too, another place that will manifest is in a relationship. Okay. That's another one, a big one, because relationships I call reflections, where you're basically in a relationship. Well, I believe everyone's a reflection of you, but in a relationship, it's like really charged and you're seeing yourself in that person. They're mirroring your own stuff back to you, right? You go through the first phase, which is, the honeymoon phase. It's all good and great, the excitement, and you're all like lovey-dovey, but then the work sets in and now you start seeing yourself. And that's why when you go into a relationship wounded, those wounds always show up, right? They just follow you into the relationship. And I did this so many times. I didn't understand it. I'm like, why is this person so emotionally unavailable? oh, because I'm still emotionally unavailable, because I was afraid of being abandoned, because when my dad would get mad at me, he would threaten to either kill me or wish he was dead. Like, these are the type of things. He's like, I just wish I was dead. And then he would like leave the house or whatever.
Mm.
So like I had this abandonment wound that would show up. Another one too was like shame around eating. Like I had a shame because like if I was eating, say like too many snacks, which I mean, I probably ate a lot of too many sometimes, but he would shame me for it, right? He would shame me for eating too much. He would guilt me. Like that costs a lot of money. Like I would have so much shame. So I had the feeling of not being safe growing up, and like feeling like my safety was totally taken away from me in my childhood. I just didn't feel safe.
It's so crazy what is actually happening on a subconscious level, right? Of like on our childhood and then what it actually manifests into where we are today and what we have no idea about. Like, even if we were brought up in a pretty good, like, childhood and like raised like, you know, well, and didn't, you know, have abuse and things like that necessarily, there's still these little things that creep in, right? How do we begin to be aware of these wounds now?
Well, the first thing is to get still and stop being so busy all the time. And here's why. Because when you are constantly moving, when you're constantly distracted, you're not paying attention to anything. And then when something shows up, you're like, I'll just deal with it later.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I'll take care of that another time. I don't have time for this right now. How many times do you hear people say that?
Mm-hmm.
I don't have time for this. I don't have time to go to the gym, right? I don't have time to sit down and meditate for 15 minutes a day. You know, and the Buddhists say that if you don't have time to meditate for 10 minutes a day, you should meditate for 30, right? And why is that? Because you should have time to sit down, rest, reflect, and relax, right? That's why we're called a human being and not a human doing. So we've been brought into this model that we always need to be doing. We always need to be achieving. We always need to be grinding, hustling, working really hard. I call bullshit. Yeah, sure, doing things in life is important. But I think it's just as important, if not more, no, it's more important to rest, reflect, and just give yourself the time and the space to get clear inside. Because when you're clear internally, and you've cleared house is what I call it, by doing the inner work, then you can show up and be more available for those around you, for your business, for your family, for your lovers, for your dog, for your cat, whatever. Because you're more of a loving space yourself. So if you're always so busy and you're always so distracted, you're not going to know what's going on internally. Most people, here's the problem, if we want to call it a problem. Most people have a better understanding of what's going on in politics, sports, the media, their neighbor, than they do with their own self. And this is why I love asking people the question, who are you? Do you know how many times I ask people the question, who are you? And this is normally the response I'll get. Well, I'm 37 years old. I'm female. I'm a mother of 3. I am a wife. I'm a husband. I am a lawyer. I'm a doctor. I am an engineer. No. I cut them right off right there. I'm like, I didn't say, what are you? I don't care what society's pegged you as. Who are you? And for the listeners right now, I'm asking you that question. Who are you? Who were you before society told you who you were?
I love that. And in my, like, if I go into what people are listening right now, I sense that there might be this panic or this feeling of like, shit, I have no idea. And then like, there's like 2 ways that I've had some conversations recently with people, and then they go, automatically I think of that and then I go straight to Netflix, or I like go, oh, like a TV series would be great right now, because I don't even know where to begin or what to do or how to look at that. And it's almost becomes like these conversations are becoming triggering for people, because it's bringing up stuff that they don't really know how to deal with, or you know what I mean? Like, and are you finding this? And what would you suggest?
Well, first of all, that's great. Yeah. If this is triggering you and you're like, oh shit, I need to back out, stay in for a minute. Just lean into this, right? Because where you're feeling discomfort is where you have work to do. Okay. When something in life triggers you, that's like showing you your wound for you. And oftentimes pain is the best mentor. You go through a heartbreak and you experience that pain, you're reading relationship books, how to heal yourself after a breakup. Like you're studying all these things. But oftentimes what we just need to do is get quiet and just sit down and relax and breathe into the moment. Stop worrying about the future. Stop worrying about the past. It's not real. It's an illusion constructed by the ego.
So good. Like, it's like just feeling, isn't it? Like, it's just this ability to just to feel where we're at. Like, and we're so scared of doing that sometimes. And I love that you're just like, this is great if it's triggering people, like lean in. And I have the same thing and it annoys so many people, but it's like, it's only because I've been there and I'm there almost all the time. Like if something's there and it's uncomfortable and you sit in it for just a moment, it's like this moment of discomfort that leads into something that you've never experienced. Like you don't know what's on the other side of the door unless you open it and walk through, right? And I just find it so beautiful to have that portal and that opportunity to go there. And if you're not there yet, cool, that's fine. But like, know that that's where it's at. Like you have to move through the door if you want to move through. Okay. And so what is the typical wound that you do see in like the feminine and then in the masculine?
Well, one of the first things is the lack of trust for the masculine energy. So we could talk about this. I mean, I could go so many different directions with this, but the lack of trust for the masculine energy, right? So maybe, and this works with both men and women. So maybe you're raised in a household where your father was not there. So you didn't trust his presence. He was emotionally unavailable. He abandoned you. Or maybe he was abusive, right? Or maybe it's just his presence was just not trustworthy. Because like when you're a little kid, you don't know words, you know energy, right? So you feel the vibration of that masculine presence and you can tell whether it's serving or not. Like you don't even know what those words mean. You just don't know. You know what energy is and that's all you need to know. That's why words can manipulate, energy can't, right? You can just feel the vibration of the energy. So the lack of trust, the lack of support in the masculine energy, in the presence of the father maybe growing up, or even the mother too, could have been carrying this type of wound as well. But more so than not, what I see is normally with the father, in most cases, but then there is the mother too. When the father is not present or is not giving you that structure, that support, which is the masculine energy, then what happens within women a lot of times is that they're animating and magnifying their own masculine energy. Now, if they have a feminine core, which most women do, they build these walls around their feminine heart. Okay. So now as a little girl, they're doing this. They don't know what they're doing. They're just doing it because it's a protective mechanism. They're developing this. Now, as they go into their teens, maybe they start dating, whatever. Now they get a little older, maybe in their 20s, 30s, whatever. They're starting to mature and they're starting to get into more serious relationships. But for some reason, they can't figure out this relationship thing. They keep attracting to them an emotional man, which is a feminine energy. Someone who's a very feminine man, expressive, very feminine, very uncertain. He can't make a decision. And she's just like, why can't you make a decision? Why can't you just lead me? Why don't you make me feel claimed? Right? So she starts asking all these questions like, why am I attracting this to me? I believe if you're animating a large amount of masculine energy, you're going to attract your energetic reciprocal. Like the polarity of the earth, it spins on north and south pole. I'm like doing all these crazy things with my hands right now, but it spins because of a north and south pole. A positive negative between magnets attract when it's positive negative. So energetically, you're going to call to you your reciprocal. So if you're animating masculine, you're going to attract to your feminine. Also to that, you're going to repel the masculine energy that you want to attract, because sexual polarity is a real thing, right? It's the arc of attraction, the yin and the yang. So if you're a woman, you're animating masculine energy because you don't trust the masculine energy and you have the shield up, then you're going to keep repelling, like you're carrying around your big shield. You're repelling the man energy, the masculine energy, and you're attracting to you more of a feminine man. So I would say that that's a start of the wounding.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Definitely can't relate. The whole time I'm like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. Yes, yes. No, I don't really get that. You know, and it's really interesting because it's actually, as I speaking from a woman's point of view, and like a lot of friends that I've spoken to, and what I see is that this becomes very subconscious. And when you begin to point it out that perhaps you are wanting to be a feminine essence and with a masculine man, and you might even be with a masculine man that's just been suppressed by your dominance of the masculine. And this is what I've experienced completely. Like, I'm so guilty of this. And in hindsight, I look back on like relationships and stuff. I'm like, oh shit, like I didn't even give them a hot chance. Like I was, you know, I would shoot them down, and I, like, you know, it was like almost like I needed to be in control because I had the trust issue of like, well, if it needs to be done, I may as well do it myself. Like, or like, you know, they'd have an idea and then, oh, we should do this. And I'd be like, oh no, but we should do this. Like, you know, it was like not even giving them a chance. And I notice this now is when I'm working with different people, it's like they realize, oh yeah, I'm guilty of that. And I do want to be this feminine essence. And I do want to be with this masculine man, or, you know, not even gender, like whatever gender your preference is, and the masculine essence. But there's this complete barrier to let go of control and actually surrender and actually allow yourself to be led. And I know for me, it's like a point right now. I've been doing so much deep work on this, but it's like, yeah, I absolutely want to be led. But my work is in surrendering and allowing that to actually happen, like trusting. And
if you don't feel safe, you're not going to trust.
Right, right. And I would be curious to know from your perspective of like, because you experienced growing up an abandonment from your father and stuff, how did you find your masculine essence? Like, how did you navigate this, being able to trust yourself to lead and being able to like cultivate that within you as a man?
I got a question for you.
Okay.
Why don't you feel safe?
I actually feel, and I've literally just been in some deep stuff exploring this, that it was to do with receiving for me. And why this came up was because I was in this in this work with a working partner and like practitioner, and he was actually completely giving me and what I needed in that moment, like feeling the energy and offering it to me. And in my head, I was judging the moment, and I was like, he's not feeling me, like give me more, like why is like give me more of this energy and give me more of this energy. And then I just stopped for a second, and I just like was like, hang on, I'm the one that's actually blocking whatever it is that he is trying to give me. Like there's like no hope of me even receiving what he's trying to pin in. And so I think my safety thing came from I just literally put up so many walls around my heart because I didn't want to be hurt. Like I didn't want to be let down. And my ability to receive, I feel like it's actually a feminine thing, but like the masculine safety, you've like got me stumped. I think it was just around like, if I have the story, if I let in love, I'll be hurt. And so it's just like a walls go up, protection, like I've got this, I'll handle it. You know what I mean? Like, and so it's just like realizing actually, if I give them a chance, like, and I actually receive that, what that turned into when I realized that and let down the walls and surrendered and opened, I've never experienced such a deep connection of anything in my life. Like I was just weeping, like, and he was weeping. And then we were just like, it was this beautiful thing of just like, when you actually do allow and trust that moment. And it's not about the past or the present. It's just the moment. Like, can I open enough to just trust the moment that I'm in? So yeah. Does that make sense?
Did you trust the masculine energy in your childhood?
I think yes and no. Yes, to a certain point, and then I was deeply repelled by it and let down by it. And so throughout my like kind of teenagehood, where I guess that you know, I needed like a strong masculine figure. I like was just like head to head, like we're both quite stubborn. And so it was head to head. And I, you know, I was probably, I learnt that no, like I needed to be that. Mm.
Do you still feel like you need to be that now?
No. Like I have a deep respect for the masculine essence that I've cultivated, but I don't want it to be the overpowering thing. Like I want it to be a really healthy balance. And I think that I have a really beautiful essence of the feminine in there that's just like, let me be seen, you know?
But you have to first see yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And be able to receive the love from the masculine energy, which is a feminine energy, to be able to receive. And if you can't receive, it might also be coming from a feeling of not being worthy of receiving love,
Mm-hmm.
not deserving love, but you do deserve love.
Yeah. I feel like my whole being, like heart, is just like filling right now. Like I feel the warmth like going to my heart.
That's your love returning to you.
Thank you.
You have a beautiful essence, and giving yourself permission to feel safe is going to serve you very well.
Mm.
You serve the world at a much higher capacity when you're your true self, not this animated self.
Mm-hmm.
Returning back to your goddess nature, the divine feminine. That'll serve you a lot better, and you'll feel a lot better because of it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like it feels like a home sense. Like it's like I feel this, and then I'm like, oh, there she is. Like that's what it feels like, you know?
Just got to remember that, who
Yeah.
she is.
Mm-hmm.
You're still going to have masculine energy. That's the thing, is there's nothing wrong with it. It's not to judge it. You can use that masculine energy to have structure, to get things done, to be a successful businesswoman. That's beautiful, right?
Mm-hmm.
It will serve you. But having a connection with your feminine heart will serve you. Like that's the juice for you. That's the juice.
Mm-hmm.
That's the life force.
And so cultivating that on a daily, like it's a practice, right? Of staying there. So what is like, how do I stay in that?
That's such a good question. I get this one a lot too from women is how do I embody more of my feminine energy? And the first thing that I say is movement, but
Yeah.
movement with intention, like movement with your body in a sensual, sexual way. I'm not saying to be slutty. I'm saying to just be the embodiment of the divine feminine and embody that through expression, through dance. Maybe you put on some nice music and you just dance and flow. That's one of the first ways. The next way I always say is to bring the vibration of love into everything you do. Everything you do. If you're taking a shower, you're feeling the shower hit you and it's with love and you're washing yourself with love. If you're washing dishes, you're washing the dishes with your love. If you're cooking with beautiful love. And you feel that expression in every single thing that you do. Infuse love in every single thing that you do with the intention just to further open your heart and pour that into everything and allowing yourself to receive, right? So if someone is giving you a compliment, just say, thank you, I appreciate that. Practice receiving. So when you're breathing in, you're receiving the love from the universe, from God, from source energy, from the divine. You're just breathing in and filling your heart up and just exhaling. And you're giving it back out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. I've, in the last like few years of, a couple of years of unraveling this journey, which I found has been like a pendulum swing, movement is like every day a kid just drops me into my body, and it doesn't matter whatever energy is coming out, right? It could be more sensual, it could be more like crazy, it could be more like fierce, like whatever, and it's just like allowing that to come out daily. And I have this thing now, if I'm working from home and I see like double numbers, because I often see double numbers, I have to get up and dance, and it drops me out of that like, structural like rigidity, and it just like drops me more into that flow energy. So I definitely feel like that's made such a huge difference. But then now it's like more of this pleasure thing. Like how do I create more? And I think that's the same as what you're saying with the love, like adding more love into things you do. And for me, it's like, how do I add more pleasure into that? Like, how do I feel more pleasure on my skin, or how do I make this a more pleasurable experience? And I think that is probably where I'm just needing to infuse more love in that.
Right. Yeah. And allowing yourself to feel the pleasure too, because if you're numb to it,
Mm-hmm.
like if you ever like gone to the dentist and got Novocaine, like you can't feel your whole mouth for like 24 hours. It's crazy. I can't stand it. And it like numbs your whole mouth. So like if part of your energetic system is numb,
Yeah.
you're not gonna be able to fully feel it. So like that's why like giving yourself permission to feel again, like that's one of the best ways that I've discovered, like releasing the trapped emotions that I talk a lot about, is like give yourself permission to feel the vibration of love by literally affirming it, saying out loud, I give myself permission to feel love, and set the intention to do that. I give myself permission to feel love. I give myself permission to receive love. I give myself permission to be love. Just affirming it, verbally affirming it. You can jot it down. You can journal about it. But like, I think it starts with giving yourself permission to feel it.
Yeah.
Because we're numb to it. We're numb to our hearts. And men especially, I'm going to call the men out here for a second because we've been focusing a lot on the women. Men especially, they fear their own heart, so they hide out in their logical mind. Right? So there's an imbalance between the mind and the heart within most men. They live in their mind. They live in the head. How can I strategize this next business move? How can I come up with a better play for my sports team or whatever, next poker play? They're always strategizing. They're always anticipating. They're always calculating. right? This is all the masculine energy. And it's so heady. It's so logical. It's so rational. It's exhausting. When you drop out of the mind and you go into the heart, your spiritual heart, everything starts to shift. Next thing you know, you see your partner, they're like looking at you different, like, you're glowing. Well, yeah, because love glows. Love is radiant. Love is light. You want your skin to look better, start loving yourself.
And what have you, like, that's hard for men. Like, that's so hard. There'd be, like, it's so much like an autopilot thing now where it's like, let's just keep moving, ticking the boxes, doing the things, don't have time to do this. And I've noticed, like, there's such this fear of vulnerability because then that's, that's weak and that's not okay. And I don't even know I'm not good with this whole emotional thing. I'm not good with this whole feeling thing. What do we do? What do they do?
Well, first of all, when they're ready, of course,
Uh-huh.
they have to be ready.
Mm.
If my fellow brothers are not ready to express and feel their feelings, they're not gonna. I'll just distract it, go hook up with more chicks, go drink more alcohol, go work more hours, go make more money. Yeah, go ahead, go do it. That's all your own stuff. But when you're ready to feel your feelings, you're gonna have to get in touch with them, right? You're gonna have to drop into your heart. You're gonna have to be willing to be vulnerable. Because what is vulnerability? An expression of emotion. It's not good nor bad, right? It just is. You're allowing the flow of the emotion to wash through you, to release the pain, to release the trauma, to open your heart, to forgive those who have hurt you.
And if they are ready?
Well, then the work begins, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
not like your 9 to 5 where you're just like going to punch in and being a robot for 9 hours or 8 hours, whatever. Like, it's like, that's the work. Like, that's when you're like in the earth school is what I call it. Like, you're in grades K through 12, you're going through the soul work. And this is what I teach my clients, is like, welcome to earth school. Like, here we go. Wherever you are, whatever grade you're in, I'm not going to judge you, right? Because I've worked through the grade systems. I know what it's like. And I'm still here in earth school as well. And sometimes I'll be brought back to second grade to remember a lesson, like I'll get triggered by something like, well, I learned that like 4 years ago. Why are you still getting triggered by this? But it's being brought back up so I can further heal it. I can further let it go. Doing inner work, working with a healer, working with someone that can guide you, that you entrust in, is a very powerful way to release these trapped emotions. Giving yourself the permission to feel vulnerable, meditating, doing breathing exercises, just being more conscious of your lifestyle choices, like just being more aware of yourself, like just checking in with yourself, seeing what's going on inside, internally. I mean, we had, at my last spiritual retreat, we had one of my brothers, Jeremy, he attended, and like I had worked with him for a period of time up until the retreat, and I could feel that he was still holding on to some anger, and he's 50 years old, and I could feel he was still holding on to the anger, right? So in the room, there's 10 women, there's 2 men, and I could just feel Jeremy needed to let this go. And I started calling it out, and I started asking these deep questions like, what are you still holding on to? Who do you need to forgive? Where are you blocked? Like, just going into it, right? And I could see he was trying to dance at first. So after about 10 minutes, we stood up and I got right face to face with him. And I was like staring deep into his eyes, like so present. And you could just feel the electricity in the room. Like everyone was just like sitting quiet, silent, just holding space. And so I started going deep with him about his father. And his father had beaten him and beaten all of his brothers and sisters and totally abused him. And he was still holding on to so much of that anger and that pain towards his dad and towards himself, right? And he was so angry about it. And I asked him, I said, have you ever gotten angry in a safe environment before? He said, no. I said, well, now you're going to get a chance to. And I had one of the other guys stand up and stand behind him, just kind of hold, his hands on his shoulders. And I held my hands on his chest, and Jeremy just screamed and cried, like in my arms, like as just being brought all out of him, just screaming and crying and just wailing with just like all this energy. And you could just see like the weights being lifted off his back in the video. Like it was just like so powerful to watch this. Like I like cried watching the video.
I cried watching it too.
Like I cried even after I was the one doing it. I was like, holy shit, like this is so powerful. So yeah, we all have to forgive. Like we all have to like let go of that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, who's ever hurt you in your life, it does not serve you to hold on to it. It serves you to let it go.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was working with a woman the other night, and she's like, I'm just so angry. I have so much resentment towards my ex-husband. Like we were together for 27 years and he did this to me. I just hate him so much. And I said, are you ready to let it go? She said, I don't think so yet. I'm like, okay, well, when you're ready, let me know. Because what you're holding on to right now is not serving you. Okay. And you think that by hating him or resenting him is serving you. It's not. It's like if I was handing you a cup of poison saying, drink this, drink it up, keep drinking it. But if I handed you a cup of poison, you'd probably slap it out of my hand or tell me, no, thank you. Right. But if I tell you to hate someone and be angry with them, I mean, maybe it makes sense not to, but why are you still holding on to that wound? Like if they hurt you, let it go.
Mm-hmm.
If your father abused you, if your mother abused you, if you had your heart broken by a lover, let them go. Let them go with love in your heart. You don't need to keep wearing this armor. It doesn't serve anyone. It doesn't serve you. It doesn't serve the planet. It doesn't serve anything. That's about being a compassionate being, is when you can look at another person and just say, I forgive you. I let you go. I free you from myself. And then when you look at yourself and you say, I forgive you too.
That's so beautiful. And what is like what is a benefit of why would someone want to go through that feeling of feeling the pain and forgiving and going through that process? Like, why should someone allow themselves to be messy for a moment?
Yeah, that's the first thing too, is like, it's okay to not be okay at points in time. Like you don't have to be this perfect human being all the time. We're brought back into this dimension of consciousness because you have work to do. Your soul has karma to do. So you're going to go through moments of pain and despair and grief, right? Allow yourself to feel it.
Yeah.
It's okay to not be okay at times. We're all trying to figure this out. We're all trying to figure this life out, right? So like, it's not about judgment. It's not about judging yourself. Like, just allow it to flow through you. Let it be whatever it's going to be. That's just the energy you're working with in that moment. If you're sad, be sad. If you're happy, be happy. But you'll learn that emotion is just emotion, right? And you are not your emotions, okay? You are the consciousness behind the emotions. Now this is getting deeper, but I'll leave that thought. I'll pin that right there.
I'll pin that right there and leave that for session number 2.
Yeah, right.
Jake, you're amazing. Like, thank you so much for the work that you do, and you have like this strong heart that comes through it. Just like we're on like a Zoom call right now, right? But it's just like pierces through and just allows funnily enough safety for me. Like I literally am just like, my whole being just relaxes and I'm like, oh, thank you. So thank you for like doing this, what you do. It's seriously amazing. And I'm so grateful to have you on the show.
That's a beautiful compliment. And I appreciate that. And one of the things that I've learned through doing this work is you have to receive praise just as much as you do rejection. Because if you're fueled only by praise, then you're going to live an empty path. Because as soon as someone rejects you and they're like, I don't like your comment, or I don't like your post, or I don't like your shirt, you're like, oh my God, I'm so hurt. I'm so wounded. But when someone compliments you feel like great, right? Yeah. So where's the contrast that you have to be able to take both? Like you don't just get to choose one just because it makes you feel your ego feel good. No. It doesn't work like that.
And where can people go to follow your work, which I highly recommend doing?
In their heart first, please. Drop into your heart and and feel into it. You know, I have a bunch of podcasts myself. I have over 90 episodes of amazing content, guided meditations, a lot on relationships, masculine, feminine energy, healing wounds, all that stuff on my podcast. And that's called the Awake with Jake Show. It's available all places, iTunes, Stitcher, whatever, SoundCloud, Spotify. The next place is I'm very active is on Instagram, and it's just _Jake Woodard, WOODARD. Post a lot on my stories, on my page. I try to post, at least once a day. Sometimes I take breaks. It's just really intuitive, And then, also I host retreats as well. And I do these spiritual retreats where I take anywhere from 10 to 20 people from around the world to come together and drop into their hearts and heal and transform. That you can find that stuff on my website, just jakewoodard.com. I want to end with a poem though, because
I'm so excited for this poem.
yeah, I want to end with this poem that I wrote that flowed through me. I call it, the name of this poem is called The Awakened Heart. Your time here is limited, but there's a reason why you visited. The beauty of your essence comes from your loving presence. Remember to always stay curious. Don't stress the past or what happened last. Don't worry about what's to come. It will leave you feeling numb. Feel free to smile more than once in a while. Forgive others who have hurt you because they hurt too. Be gentle with yourself and you will find that inner peace is the ultimate wealth. See hard times as a way for you to grow so the light within you can really start to glow.
My heart. Thank you so much. You're amazing.
Likewise, my friend. I appreciate that. Thank you for having me on your show. It's been an honor.
So whoever has chills or tears or goosebumps happening right now, I would totally love to know your feedback. Definitely tag me on Instagram and alongside Jake, because we'd both love to know what you took away from this episode. And if you took nothing but dance a little bit more, access some more pleasure in your body, and lead from your feminine heart, then hey, I'm pretty sure your life would change. And if you're a guy and you've been suppressing those emotions and you need some help kind of cultivating access to your heart, then also hit me up, because I do one-on-one coaching with men. I fall into this work every single week where I'm having more and more connection with men who are in this work, and it's unreal. So if you need some support, definitely let me know. Otherwise, friends, thank you so much for joining me. Don't forget to hit up the Inner Experience Facebook group on Facebook, where we're building a community of people in this work that want to share conversations and what you took from each episode and what you need support with right now. So come and join us, and stay tuned for next week, because oh boy, we're going in.